Well, when you start an archery, you get a nice group of friends, and we're going to talk to one of those, my new friends on this podcast. My name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to host today on Arch Talk 101 podcast. And I have Chase on the show today. Welcome to the show, Chase.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name's Chase Burch. Lived in Southeast Missouri my whole life, except for I lived in Northeast Arkansas for 1 year in college. So pretty much Southeast Missouri. I live in Kennett, Missouri right now, down here in the Delta, right on the Arkansas line. I'm 25 years old. I've been involved in archery since long as I can really remember. I guess since I was about 5. I guess when everybody gets their first little bare fiberglass bow and moves up from there. Started bow hunting when I was probably 11 or 12, something like that. Started competitive archery, shooting tournaments. By the time I was about 13, 14, I believe, and shot pretty much all the way till I think I was 19, 20. Started a career in banking pretty early on, and that kind of didn't come to a complete halt, but didn't really have time for it. Didn't have time to tinker, didn't have time to travel like I'd like to. Life hit, so went ahead and kind of got burnt out on it and pretty much just hunted. And then I've always dabbled in traditional archery since I was probably a 12, 13 years old, something like that. But got really involved in that and kind of committed to shooting trad bows. I guess it's been 2 years now. That's exclusively what I've shot. So,
Yeah. Yeah, for some reason it didn't go live in the group, so I'll get that started. But yeah, it's so what made you get started in archery? Just the fact that you kind of grew up with it, or?
Well, my dad bow hunted. Ironically, my dad he bow hunted. Didn't grow up. I mean, he grew up in a hunting family. His father didn't really hunt. He hunted with his grandpa, his uncles. He was active duty military for my entire life, pretty much till I was a senior in high school. When he retired, he was gone a lot. That was something kind of interested me. One of the first memories I have of really, I guess, taking it more serious and showing more of an interest in it. I think I was 7 or 8 years old. I went and they were, everybody asked you, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas? Well, I remember looking at a Bass Pro catalog and picking out a little ready to shoot diamond edge package.
Oh.
I got that for Christmas that year, worked my way up. I think I was shooting about 40 pounds when I got it. And my dad deployed shortly thereafter. And he pretty much told me, I don't want you bow hunting with anybody but me for now. I don't want you in a stand, being protective. When I get back from this deployment, he gave me some goals and whatnot to kind of roll through while he was gone. And, basically everybody has the pie plate at 20 yards. I think he told me he wanted them in a baseball at 20. So when he got back, that's pretty much all I did while he was gone. If I had any free time, I was in the backyard wearing out a target. So when he finally got back, that's when we started bow hunting together, and it's bit me. It's been kind of an obsession of mine ever since. So
yeah,
only other love I have that might would trump it would be spring turkey hunting.
Oh, yeah. So how's that going? The spring turkey?
Well, Missouri is it's pretty rough in Missouri, to be honest with you. We don't have near the birds we used to. I won't really get into why, but almost feel a little guilty about killing a bird or even wanting to try and kill a bird in Missouri anymore. In some of the counties where I've grown up hunting, just because I know what it used to be and what it could be, and we've got to do something. We got to have some change at some point, but it's still the love of my life, I guess you could say. And I don't really bow hunt turkeys. I'm not against it, but for some reason I feel like a gobbler needs to be shot in the face with number 5s or number 6s.
So yeah. There's a lot of people that they just love shooting archery at turkeys, but like I said, there's not as big of a target to shoot. With the shotgun, at least you have lots of options to hit, vitals. And
Yeah. Well, I prefer to run and gun. That's how I want to hunt them. I'm just not one of those guys that wants to sit in the blind for them. Not against it by any means. Whatever floats your boat. There's an
right.
art to that, but it's not the way I grew up doing it. So
Well, you have to come up a little bit north here in Nebraska. We have lots of turkeys.
I've heard that. I need to get up there and get Chase and Merriams at some point because our Easterns are kicking my butt.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of them. I have a flock that's about a mile away from me that shows up every once in a while. I have about 3 dozen, and it's on property that I can't hunt, but I kind of cross the street. So I got to try and figure out, where they're going during the day to kind of figure out when to hunt them. I'm going to try and get some time out to go this coming year, which is coming up here real soon because turkey spring starts in March here in Nebraska for archery, and in
Yep.
April for shotgun.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. It'll be here before we know it. I'm not. I'm trying to get things squared away at work so I can have a little time off,
Yeah.
not be so overwhelmed. Actually get out during the week.
So what do you do for work?
I'm a commercial. I do a little bit of everything, but I'm a commercial lender for a bank here in town. I'm the branch manager, community bank president at a local bank here in the town where I live, and pretty much just do agricultural and commercial lending for the most part.
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a job. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy working for my customers. I've got a good group of customers, and it's something different every day, but it is an office job. We'll say that. So.
Yeah, that is true. Sit in an office pretty much all day long. So do you do any target shooting or any kind, target or 3D or?
I used to shoot. We used to travel. I mean, I used to not miss an ASA back when I shot compounds. Started in hunter class, moved up, ended up shooting known distance stuff forever. And really, I think the last ASA I shot the Paris Easton, would be whatever their Southwest shootout in Paris, Texas. That was the last one I shot. I think I shot it in 2019. I go to some traditional shoots. I was at a traditional local club shoot on Saturday. And I've pretty much hit quite a few of those up. I probably shoot a dozen or more a year. This weekend I'll probably be at the pre-spring arrow fling there at Buck Hollow Bow Hunters in Tennessee, and we'll go to a few of those events. But I typically with work anymore, if I can help it and I got any free time, if there's something to hunt, I'm probably in the woods. So
Yeah, go hunting rather than shooting paper.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I enjoy it. I used to be the complete opposite. I used to just try to get on a podium as opposed to killing a nice buck. But your priorities change a little bit I guess the older you get and the busier you get. So
Yeah. I'd rather have the meat than the trophy. At least you can eat the meat.
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So that, and life gets moving a little fast, and burn yourself out, get what you can burn yourself out hunting too. But you get
Yeah.
stressed trying to tinker, trying to be prepared. Half the time you show up to a tournament, feel like you're unprepared, and then you're mad you took off and showed up. So
Yeah. So what is the probably the most memorable tournament you shot at?
man, that's probably hard to say. I don't. Well, I'll tell you the most memorable for me. I would say, can't remember the year. I know I think a sophomore in college, so I was probably 19 years old. Buddy of mine, Scott Darnell, he was a rep for PSC Archery for a long time. Been involved in archery his whole life. He's now a rep for Mike Wick and Associates, so he reps Prime Archery, G5, a bunch of different companies. And at that time, he was a rep for PSC, and he was one of their, he managed a local regional pro staff. We had put a PSC trailer together, got it going, had it wrapped, had it looking good, ready for shows. And it was we had a little bit of a cancellation. When I was supposed to go with a buddy of mine, he couldn't go. So me and Scott ended up going together. He lives about 5 hours from me. So I met him at his house, drove straight from work one night. we woke up at the butt crack of dawn, the next day, and we were going down to Foley, Alabama, and he had to make some stops on the way. We stopped at a buddy at his house, turned into a friend of mine down in South Mississippi, stayed for a night, shot our bows at an indoor range, and he was deliberating what class he wanted to shoot. He had not got to shoot a whole lot. He's busy. His job's archery, but that doesn't mean you get to shoot your bow all the time. So he was debating whether he wanted to shoot a senior known class or shoot senior pros. He had just turned 50. And he ended up deciding he was going to go and shoot senior pro. Well, I wasn't expecting. He's a phenomenal shooter. He can judge with the best of them. But he walked out there, and I believe he had a 16 or 26 point lead after day 2, and
wow.
pretty much just put on a clinic. And his first debut. He'd shot professionally in the past in some Western circuits, I believe, and stuff like that. But had shot semi-pro for a long time at ASA and won several of them. But he just went down and put on a clinic, and he did it with a budget bow. I can remember that. It was like a PSC Response or something like that. It was like a 33-inch bow, like a $600 bow, and had it set up to shoot. And he just cleaned house with them, and it was an awesome experience. We went crazy. It meant as much to me to see him win that tournament as if I'd won it. So it was a good deal. Good ride home anyway, with all the big checks in the background in the back seat. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. When you can go, that just kind of proves you don't need the high-end bow to win.
Everybody's equipment nowadays is top notch. It's all personal preference, and if it fits you, it fits you. So
yeah, it's your bow's just got to fit you is the biggest thing.
Oh yeah, right bow and just set up, knowing how to set one up, or having a good coach is a lot.
Yeah, I know when I had my store, that you don't get much time to shoot. You're working everybody else's bow, you're fletching arrows, you're setting up bows and teaching people how to shoot, and then you don't get to shoot. And then you can try after you close, you go shoot and you're tired, and then you're trying to get ready for hunting season, and you shoot your broadhead into a concrete block and
oh yeah, absolutely. Seems like when you're in a shop, you're shooting a good bit, but usually it's about from 5 yards away through paper, or watching somebody else shoot and tying in peep sights, and like you said, building arrows, fletching arrows. A lot of people enjoy doing it, but when you do it all the time, it definitely gets monotonous. So
yeah. Well, and then you might shoot, a little bit here and there. I remember I had my own store for a while, and then I worked for Basketball for a while and Cabela's for a while. And when I was at Cabela's, that was before Basketball brought Cabela's. And when you set up a drop way rest, you have to shoot them to see how they're going to work, whether or not to work or not. So this guy brought a bow in. He couldn't group or nothing with it. So he wanted a drop way rest. Wasn't the problem, but that's what he wanted. So we put that on, and I go out there and I take the first shot, and it works pretty good. Take a second shot, stick 2 arrows together, and the guy looks and says, "I didn't see anybody do that." Well, yeah, I do it quite often. It wasn't my arrows, so I didn't care, And the guy comes in and says, "I can't group with it." Yeah, like then you say, "Dude, it ain't the bow," because I just did it.
Yeah.
I stuck 2 arrows in the same hole.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, people, I think it's kind of hilarious, especially when you start, to speak on that, when you watch guys that really know how to shoot traditional bows and the simplicity of it. I say simplicity of it. It is simple. Your equipment is simple, but it is not simple. It's not a simple craft or anything whatsoever. I probably tune a trad bow more than I ever tune my compounds. Just because I don't have to throw it in a press to do anything to it. But
right.
When you watch a guy that can really shoot a trad bow or a bare bow, and you see how consistent and how much mental control they have, it's kind of amazing. Especially then you got your average bow hunter. Season's open September 15th here in Missouri, and September 7th, he's pulling his bow out of the case and rolling into the shop wanting to buy some arrows, and I hadn't touched it since last year, and hammers the trigger, about dents the trigger. He slaps it so hard, and can barely keep it on a whole Vegas face at 20 yards, and you're just kind of like, whew, He's sitting there discussing equipment with his buddy. There's always that guy in the shop that,
Yeah.
if I had the new whatever V3X, this bow's just junk. It's just junk. It was the best bow, made 5 years ago when he bought it. So
Yeah. Well, and you don't have to have the newest and best. My hunting bow's a 2001 PSE Carrera, and my other bow, which is not really what I use for hunting, but I can because it's camel bow. It's a 2002 or 2003 PSE Scorpion, and all my kids all shoot PSE bows. My recurve's a PSE bow, and when I was working at Cabela's, I was able to get a really cheap bow because there's a couple things wrong with it, and returns. And working an archery shop, we can take a look at it and buy them. So I got a really good price. But it's a bear in the snow camo. It was just, when it was new, it was $900 for the bow. And I didn't pay anywhere near that because I had to, fix some stuff on it. But that's, other than that, I was a PSE dealer, so that's pretty much all I shoot.
Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah, I shot PSE pretty exclusively for, it was exclusively for probably 5 years, something like that. I think I've shot everything for the most part. Cut my teeth on Bowtex. I've been brand loyal at times, but I've never been one of those people that just wants to dog another bow. I mean, everybody shoots different. Everything fits you, just depending on how you shoot. And now they're even better than they were 10 years ago. I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference, but the quality control, everything, it's just phenomenal anymore. The technology, I mean, it makes everything so much easier on a dealer these days.
Yeah, well, only when you look, when the compounds first come out in the 70s, compare that compound bow to today's compound bow, not even the same. It's like going between longbow and compound. There's a big difference in them, and they're getting shorter and shorter and faster, and which makes them harder to shoot. Those short bows, short fast bows are hard to shoot. That's where you got to have good form. And
oh yeah, that's kind of funny you say that. I got my dad started in traditional archery this year, and when he was shooting, he was just, which he has to shoot left-handed now. He's shattered his elbows and had some injuries and nerve damage and stuff, so he had to switch. And he was cracking up because I'm explaining stuff to him and tuning, and he's like, killed deer for a long time with a old whitetail 2 shooting off off of whatever, bare weather rest, flipper rest, and with fingers, no tab, bent aluminum arrows, and thunderheads. Some of them might have had all 3 blades, some of them might not. And like, this recurve's got more technology than what I had growing up. So
yeah, the Bear Whitetail 2 is the first compound I shot. My brother bought it. Then I had, my first and original bow was a 25-pound fiberglass Ben Pearson bow, and I still have it. I don't shoot it, but that's what I started off with, and I shot probably about 15 years before I shot my first compound bow, and then kind of got hooked after that.
Oh yeah, I still threaten to pick up a compound. I got one. My buddy Scott's a dealer. I got one from him. He dabbles in some traditional archery, and I think I traded him for one of his, a longbow for one of the compounds he had. And I mean, I never even set it up. I think I put a sight on it and put a rest, never even tied a peep in or anything. It just sat in the corner all year and watched me pick up my longbows and my recurves and go outside and shoot. And well, I'll pick it up again one day. I'll get a wild hair, I guess. So
Yeah, they're completely different, and they're just, you know, a little different, and to develop the skills to shoot, the recurves and longbows
Mhm.
is a
Oh,
skill that is good to learn. Even if you're going to shoot a compound, learn how to shoot one of those.
mhm.
I think they all
Oh, yeah.
just kind of, you learn a compound and then go, learn recurves and longbows
Mhm.
and your traditional equipment, and a lot of the stuff will transfer between the others. Little variations, but
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of the
Yeah.
technique
Same
will.
archery movement. Yeah. Pretty much same archery movements, just altered just a little bit, but alignment's still critical, and proper setup, and just having a bow that fits you. There's I think that's probably, and being overbowed is another one. A lot of people just, they think everybody shoots 70. I got to shoot 70, and traditional bows are no different. Uh,
Yeah, and a 70-pound traditional bow is nothing like a 70-pound compound bow.
oh, absolutely not. No, no, not even close. And even with the traditional bows these days, I've pretty much had one or two of everything at this point, and a 45-pound recurve is not the same as another 45-pound recurve. I've had 45-pound bows that shot way faster than some 55-pound bows I've had, just because of limb design and things like that. So uh, carbon limbs and super curved limbs and everything else. So
Yeah, they're all different, and that's why you got to try different ones to see what you like the best. I know there's
well,
the
I have an addiction, so that's why I try them all. But
yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of us that have, lots and lots of bows, and um I don't have that many. I have three compounds is all I have right now.
yeah, it's I never had quite that addiction with compounds. I pretty much would set one up every year, either stick with it or go back to the last year whatever I was more comfortable with, whatever I shot the best scores with. Uh, my primary hunting bow right now is a Toki Chinook and 50 style recurve, and I definitely don't shoot it as well as some of my other bows that I've had. But it's simple, it's lightweight, it's quiet, super fast, and it just inspires me to shoot it. I think that's half of it. It's got to be a good looking bow.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
either got to be a really good looking bow or it's got to shoot really, really good. So,
One of the two better if you have both, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and getting around and shooting the bow, and
Hmm.
I just need to get out and do a little bit more of it. I need to do more than what I'm doing, and it's fun talking to all the archers around the world on different subjects and what they're doing, and how often do you get the chance to practice nowadays, now that you've kind of got back into it?
I typically, this time of year, there's usually a 3D tournament every weekend, with the exception of a few nights a week when I'm just dog tired or have a meeting or anything. Like I've got a meeting tonight, a little too involved with certain boards and clubs and things like that. But I typically will try to at least shoot, a dozen arrows a day. Some days that might be 200 arrows. Some days that might be 2 arrows. It's just whether I walk outside my backyard at night and I've got a security light out there and just shoot 4 or 5 at 5 yards, or I go home on my lunch break or something like that and shoot a quick 25 or 30 arrows and go back in the house. Just something. Shooting a traditional bow is, you pretty much have to maintain your form and practice on the regular. It's going to be rough on you. So
Yeah. So when you're shooting your traditional bow, are you just kind of looking at your target and doing instinctive shooting, or you use the tip of your arrow, or string walking, or how
uh,
do you do that?
I I don't string walk. I have done a fixed crawl at times, but I wouldn't call myself a gap shooter. I know what my point on is. I'm more of a split vision guy, kind of gap instinctive, if you want to call it that. I have an idea how far the target is and where my point needs to be, what my sight picture should look like, and then I'll just when I come to anchor, I find my spot, figure out, yep, that's about right, and then I just stare at wherever I'm wanting to hit, and try to execute a shot and pull through, and till it should surprise me. It doesn't always surprise me, but that's the goal anyway. So
Yeah, no, with fingers, it's a little bit not quite as easy to have that surprise release as it is when you're using a release aid,
oh yeah,
because you do have to kind of relax them fingers, but you don't exactly know when it's going to slip off.
yep, oh yeah, yep. I'm trying to stay in and shoot. Staying in shooting shape is probably the most important thing. You to step away from it for a few weeks sometimes, and you'll get rested up and recovered or whatever, and you're like, man, this bow feels like a toy. And then sometimes you don't shoot for a month or something. You come back and you're like, good gosh, what happened to my bow? This thing, last I looked, is 45 pounds. It feels like 60. So
Well, and then up here in Nebraska where it gets cold, we could have, below freezing weather, and the bow's going to act differently when it's that cold as opposed to in the summertime when it's 80, 90 degrees. It's all going to act differently,
oh
and
yeah,
your muscles are acting differently.
that's most of it for me. Sitting in an office, I'm not near what I once was when I was younger, so I'm still pretty young, but you lose a lot really quick.
Yeah, you do. And then as you get older, it gets harder and harder to maintain that. And that's just one of those things that you get older, you gotta change things. And I know as I get older, it's a little harder for me to, get out and do the stuff I used to. But hey, talking archery is something that's fun to do. I can do that, all day long. I can talk archery and a few other subjects, but archery is the one that I've been doing for a long, long time. And I shot for quite a while, and then I learned how to do the back tangent release, which was a new weird concept that I couldn't understand until I learned it. And it's like, oh, well, that makes a whole lot of sense, and
Yep.
and then I become an archery instructor in '95, an NFA archery instructor, and I've taught hundreds of people how to shoot. And I like teaching the beginners, somebody that's never started yet. That's always the fun part is get a chance to teach them and let them see the first time they shoot, and it's like, whoa. That's
absolutely.
that's the nice thing about teaching beginners how to do it, whether it's a young kid or an old kid. We can all do it. And I seen a post, this guy was 95 still shooting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's a blast for me. It was kind of funny, you grow up and whoever your mentor was, I guess you say mine was my dad for the most part. Inspired me to want to get into archery, wanting to bow hunt, not so much the tournament side, but he never quite understood that. But he got a lot more involved once I got more involved, and I started working on his equipment and tuning his stuff for him and setting things up for him and coaching him. And it's kind of funny how it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll have kids and that'll happen to me. So, I look forward to that. And then, teaching kids, that's the thing. When you got a kid that's really involved in archery and wants to do something, wants to go to tournaments, wants to excel at it, wants to be a better bow hunter, it's pretty rewarding, to help them reach a milestone or teach them, how to shoot a hinge release or just a little difference in setup or something like that, that helps them out. It's a big deal. It makes you feel really good. Kind of takes you back to when you first started doing it. So.
Yeah, when I first started, there was nobody showing me how to do it. You just had to figure it on your own. And my goal now is help all the new archers out to get started and not go through all the struggles and learning and unlearning your bad habits, and just make it a lot more fun. And that's what I like to do. And
Yep. I've always said archery's a lot more fun when you're hitting what you're aiming at. So it's always good to have a good coach somewhere.
Yeah, it's always nice when you get to you look at someone, you says, I'm going to teach you the secrets the Olympic archers use to hit their spot. And I was like, huh? You're going to teach me secrets? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a big
Yeah.
secret. Everybody knows it. It's just, they don't know it yet. So, hey, I'm going to teach you a secret.
Yep. Oh yeah. And I can vividly remember a couple years back, I got asked, the S3DA director for Arkansas asked me to come down and, help at a local range about an hour south of where I live. And, they had their little archery team there and, wanted to come talk and help coach some of the kids, talk to some of the kids. And there's a girl there that was shooting, and I had shot with her a couple years before at a little indoor league at night. We would drive every week about an hour and a half away and go shoot this indoor league. And she was having some problems punching her trigger, and it was just eating her up, and I could see it in her eyes. And I was like, yeah, I remember when I had target panic so bad I almost quit. And I had my first hinge that I ever bought in my release pouch. I hadn't shot it in years, and I gave that to her and set it up for her and showed her how to shoot it. And you could just see that, it light up like, you mean I can actually shoot while my pin's on the dot, and I don't have to, slam a trigger and drive by. And I seen her a few years later at that range, and she still had that same hinge, still shooting, and it was pretty cool feeling. So.
Oh yeah, that's always good when you do that.
Yeah.
I know that's one of the things, people that try and pull the trigger, they're going to develop target panic. And like you said, it's, it's a drive-by shooting as you see that pin moving, and quit pulling the trigger, you're not going to target panic. What happens is if you see the pin go by, your mind says pull the trigger, you start pulling the trigger, and then you see the pin, but your mind says, oh, don't shoot. Yeah, but if you're not pulling the trigger, you're just concentrating on where the pin is. And I like to tell people, it's like, okay, hold your finger up like you're going to shoot. Now make your finger move without thinking about it. You'll have someone that says, no, I don't do it. Switch hands. And once I have somebody that says, oh yeah, I don't want to think, well, I can't help you then. If you can't see that, it's like, okay, keep doing what you're doing. But when you do that, you have to think about moving the trigger finger. So as you're thinking about moving the trigger, what you stop doing? You stopped aiming. So what are you going to hit? You're not aiming no more. So but that's hard to do. I've seen people with the finger way up high, get ready to do it, and just cram on that trigger. And I never did that, but now you can do that. And some people say you can't shoot that style with a trigger release. I do it all the time. And I have a handheld one. It's a Carter Chocolate Addiction, and I fire it that way. I've shot a couple of hinges, just in practice trying them out, and they'd be all right for target, but I like mine because I can hunt with mine. Because it just hooks on the loop on my bow and it just hangs there.
Yep. Actually, I hunted with a hinge pretty much exclusively for that same hinge. I don't know how many deer I killed using that hinge that I gave to her, but I had gotten so used to it, I actually took one, and that's what I hunted with. I think the last buck I shot with a compound would have been in 2020. And I actually shot him with a hinge. The same hinge I shot my tournaments with and everything is a True Ball HBC. So,
and if that's what you're used to, then you know what to do, and shoot what you're used to and comfortable with. And I know when I go out, I carry my handheld, the Carter Chocolate Addiction. I have my Scott wrist strap for when it gets really cold, and then I have a True Fire handheld that I got. The rep called me up and said, hey, wanted me to carry some of the stuff in my store. And I says, well, if Walmart carries it, I won't carry it. And so he sent me one of those to try. And it don't compare to a Carter, but it was less than half the price, maybe about a third the price. Yeah. Somebody get into it.
Right.
And you can feel the trigger moving and a little bit on that, but it's better than, real cheap release. And I carry that in my backpack as another backup. So I carry 3 releases with when I go. And when it gets really cold, I don't like using the handheld because I have to have my hand exposed so I can feel it. So I go to the wrist one. So all I need is just, from the second joint forward, it needs to be exposed, and so I can feel the trigger. And you have to think about that when you're hunting up here in Nebraska when it could be, teens or 20s. and that aluminum gets
Oh
cold.
yeah. Oh yeah, I understand it. People think being in southeast Missouri, they don't think of it being cold, but we actually get pretty frigid around Christmas. We were sorry, I'm at a meeting parking lot here. We're having this meeting. I got guys moving trucks in and out, but around Christmas, I think it got down to like -3, -4 for us. So
Oh,
it was
that's cold.
yeah. Yeah, and we'll get down in the teens, some single digits every once in a while, but for the most part, we're usually around that, freezing, maybe high 20s, something like that in the cold part of the fall, cold part of the winter. So not too bad, but not single digits all the time with 35-mile-an-hour winds. So
Oh, looks like we lost him. He got disconnected. But yeah, we'll see if he connects back in. But yeah, it's hunting in the cold is something you always got to look at. And um, up here in Nebraska, we have different weather. Down there in Missouri has different weather. Nice to see you back. You kind of got disconnected there a little
yeah,
bit. I can tell you're in a
sorry
car,
about that.
so it didn't surprise me
Yeah.
that you got disconnected sooner or later. But yeah, hunting in that
Oh
cold,
yeah.
I just kind of, while you was gone, I was talking about, hunting in the cold. It just, it's something you got to
Hmm.
prepare for. And, you know,
Oh yeah.
what you're used to, even if you're down in Texas, they're pretty nice weather, or Tennessee or Florida, you can
Hmm.
still have them cold days. It's all kind of
Oh
relative.
yeah.
When you're used to
Absolutely.
95, 110 temperatures, then you get down to 60s, it feels cold to you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I used to set my hunting bows up different specifically for that. I mean, my draw length was typically, people disagree with me on this. I'm a pretty stocky guy, pretty big guy, so when it's cold and I throw a lot of clothes on, it can be very difficult to shoot a bow. And I mean, my tournament bows typically, in the middle of the summer, my draw length, 29.5 inches, but it's hard to get that full extension when you got 6 inches of clothing on. So usually my
Right.
hunting bows, I set about a half inch shorter on the draw length, and uh, for the most part.
Well, and that's what I do is, when I first had mine, I thought as a 32-inch draw length, because the first bow, he says, well, draw it back. How's it feel? Well, I didn't know any better.
Yep.
Okay. It was 32. So I thought it's
Yeah.
32. So when I went down to learn, the back tension release, it's like, you're 29.5. I got a 32-inch bow. And this is a Friday night. This is before Saturday night's class. You got to have your bow down to 29.5 inches. So now I'm looking around. So, okay,
Hmm.
how can I do this? Changing string lengths and everything else, because I didn't have modules in it. It was an old PSE, and they didn't have modules like they do now that you could just switch. So I got it down to 29 and a
Right.
half. And I shoot 29 now because, like you just said, that extra half inch, I
Hmm.
can wear the big heavy coat in the wintertime, don't hit my arm. And I just shoot that length all the time.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, and you get pretty used to it. I mean, my form looks a little different with a hunting bow anyway. Typically, shorter bows for the most part. Um, so I set them up just a little bit differently when I was shooting a compound. So it's just a little different animal, especially if you're shooting out of a stand and a lot of clothing on. And I used to fight it a lot and try to put a real tight vest on to pack it down so it didn't hit my chest. And that doesn't make your clothing any warmer to anybody that wants to try that. That doesn't help. So
No, you need that trapped air. And when you squish it all out, it
absolutely,
doesn't help.
absolutely, yeah.
So what's your most memorable hunt you've been on?
Um, I would probably say the last buck I shot in 2020 with my compound. It was the first decent buck that I think first decent buck I'd taken off our family farm. My great grandpa passed away back in 2006, I believe. We purchased the farm shortly thereafter. Um, it really was. I mean, it was an old cattle farm. Had mostly pasture. Had the other half about timber, and we ended up having the timber cut. And you just never seen a deer. You never seen deer on that farm. There just wasn't deer there. And we've tried to manage it and do what we can, and we hold quite a few deer down there at times. It's getting better every year, and I was able to shoot a pretty decent 8 off that farm, about 200 yards where my great grandpa's old home place used to stand. So caught me off guard. It was a warm day in October. It really wasn't expecting much movement, and buck rolled in around 5 o'clock and gave me a perfect shot. I was able to call my dad and come down there, and it was a pretty cool experience. So
Yeah, those are nice when you take a property that don't really hold deer during the day, and now you take a nice one off of there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was I can't tell you how many sits I've had in that stand specifically, or that spot, the past 3 or 4 years, just trying to kill a decent buck off that place. And we knew they were there, and we had some around. My dad had killed a pretty good one with a rifle a couple years before. Seen some good deer, seen some really good deer actually at times, but not a lot of cover in that area. So they could be there, they could be in that piece of timber one day out of the season, so
Yeah.
it was pretty rewarding. I'd actually set that bow up the night before too. I had the same exact bow, and I don't exactly, I think I had a module crack, and it just blew to pieces like 4 days before, at the beginning of the week. And shout out to Prime Archer for their customer service. I had a bow on my doorstep really quick, same exact bow. Ended up going and setting it up. Literally just, I knew how I had to shim it, knew everything about it, just bolted everything on. Went and, sorry about that.
Yeah, it looks like your audio went away.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Or your video went away.
Yeah. We went and set that bow up. Like, I think I got home that night from something and set that bow up about 11 o'clock at night. Threw a peep in it, shot it through paper, shot it through a chrono, shot the exact same speed. I got everything to spec, and I had the same sight tape on the sight that I was shooting, and I just sighted it in my backyard at 20, basically with moonlight, and went and rolled over to the farm the next day, hunted that morning, hunted all day, actually swapped stands, and sat that evening in another stand on the other side of the property, and he come out about 17 yards, gave me a shot. So I'd literally shot that particular bow, maybe 15 shots, something like that. So it was kind of a memorable year.
But it was a bow you're familiar with, so you knew exactly, what you had, and
Yeah.
you set up the same, same speed arrows, same arrows, so nothing was going to change. And if you'd had a different speed now, then that would have been a little different. But 20 yards, 17 yards, 22 yards, yeah, really, most of these new bows, yeah, you're going to put the pin in the same spot.
Yeah, that bow, and that was actually the first year I'd actually shot a prime. And first one I had, set it up, and I just remember that bow had blown up, I think a week before, and I'd got to hunt that evening, and I was an hour away from the house. So I didn't have a backup bow with me, and I remember it blew up right before I was getting ready to hunt. My dad shoots left-handed, and I had tuned his bow and shot his bow enough. I ended up hunting with his bow that evening. The week before that, and we had 2 bucks on the farm that year. Had a nicer buck come out chasing a doe, and he actually come out about 50 yards. Well, I don't shoot left-handed enough to shoot 50 yards at a whitetail chasing a doe, so
yeah,
I was pretty heartbroken. So it felt good to get some redemption, a couple days later. So
yeah, you don't want to take them not sure shots. You don't like you don't shoot left-handed too often. And I've shot a couple left-handed bows. Just one of my shooters, he was left-handed, and he says, well, a lot of times I got to try them out right-handed. So I tried his left-handed, and I've tried a couple left-handed bows. But that's why when I had my store, I sold probably 40% of my bows were left-handed bows because I stocked them.
Right. Yeah. That's a struggle for a lot of people. I know my dad struggled with that. You want to try something out, and you can't try it out because nobody has anything left-handed. So you almost
Yeah,
just have to guess. You know.
yeah, and that's exactly why I did it. And a lot of places they'll charge more for the left-handed bows. And I know when I had my
Right.
store,
Oh yeah.
it was a little, it was a few dollars more for left-handed bow, but I priced them the same. I was like, I'm not
Oh
gonna
yeah.
bump the price, for a $10 difference in my
Hmm.
cost. I'm just gonna leave it the same. So it doesn't matter. And that way I don't have to worry about, oh, this is a left-handed bow, this is a right-handed bow, and left-handed rest and sights. And it didn't matter. Same price whether it's right or left-handed. I didn't try and, upsell anything just because they're left-handed and take advantage of them. And that's just what what you gotta do. Gotta be fair to both of them. And just because you're shooting left-handed doesn't mean you're left-handed. It just means your left eye is dominant. Or like in your dad's case,
Right.
you have a physical problem that allows you or
Mhm.
to shoot, one or the other, or prevent you from shooting one side or the other.
Right. Yes, sir.
So yeah, that was quite a interesting story on your hunt.
Yeah. We actually just got back a few weeks ago from a hog hunt down in South Georgia. Um, playing right there off the coast. We were on a PBS, Professional Boner Society membership hunt, and we were expecting to be in the hogs and did not have quite the luck we anticipated. We found out when we got there the DNR had come in on helicopters and pretty much wiped them out uh,
Oh,
shortly before we got there. So it made for a very, very tough and miserable hunt, but it was a lot of fun too. We had 13 guys in camp, um, you know, seeing a different piece of scenery and fellowship and everything like that. I got to do that with my dad. It was a good trip. It was a good time.
yeah, it sounds like it would be. Too bad DNR didn't come through after you did your hunt.
I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, we it's kind of funny because you're sitting there, you're all bummed out, and you're thinking, there's got to be a few hogs left, surely somewhere, and there were, but pretty miserable country to hunt in, and pretty difficult to get around in. So, uh, yeah, you can't really blame them for wanting to do it. I mean, at
Right.
all. It's not like we're 13 guys with longbows. If every one of us shoots a hog, that's not really putting a dent in it. They're not wanting to shoot 12 of them. They're wanting to shoot 1,200 of them. So,
Right.
you know,
They can be pretty destructive.
absolutely.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody that's thinking about starting out in archery?
I would tell them that, I mean, whether you're wanting to just get involved in archery or bow hunting, it's like a lot of sports or hobbies, whatever you want to call it, lifestyles. You get out of it what you put into it. Um, I never claim some people are, they just have natural ability, natural talent. I've never claimed to be one of those people, but when I would go to a tournament, or if I'm going on a hunt, I always told myself I'm going to be I'm going to work the hardest out of anybody here. So, um, that's the thing. You cannot buy success. You can buy gear and equipment that is conducive to success and will help you over certain things just in setup and the choices you make. But I would tell them jump right into it. Don't let anybody tell you have to have the latest and greatest. Um, Before I would invest in top line equipment, I would absolutely invest in a coach, or I would get a hold of somebody that has done it. Um, Bad thing about social media these days, it's an awesome tool. There's a lot more information out there, but that's not to say that all of it's good information. There's a lot of people that have they're trying to claim a lifetime of experience, and they've been involved in archery for a year, or they want to tell you what the best arrow setup or best bow is for this style of hunting, and they don't necessarily have anything to show for it. So, um, definitely listen to the people who have experience, um, and just don't look back. I mean, just practice, shoot that thing till the wheels fall off or till the string breaks,
Right.
and just spend time behind the bow. That's all I did as a kid. I can't tell you how many string sets I went through a year when I was shooting tournaments. It's almost embarrassing, having to change out bearings and things like that and cams because you just about wear the thing out, or replace limbs every 3 or 4 years because you just wear them out. But it's definitely a rewarding and enjoyable experience, especially if you got somebody helping to mentor you and guide you along who knows what they're talking about, and I say knows what they're talking about. They got to be able to coach too. They got to be able to tell you, and diagnose what you're doing wrong, what you could do better. So, and that can be hard to find.
Yeah,
But I
it
think
can
they'll
be.
find when they get involved, there's a lot of people out there that are, more than willing to lend a hand to anybody. So, because they love this sport as much as, there's plenty of people that love this sport as much as I do. I know I could call. I got a whole contact list of people I could call right now if I had a problem, or or if I was a beginner or whatever. I could call them and they'd be more than happy to come up to the house for the weekend and we'll work on it, see what we can do. So
Yeah, and that's the thing about, I found, a lot of archers, no matter where you're at, whether you're, in the States or you're overseas, they're just all willing to help out.
absolutely.
And had to mute there, I had a sneeze coming. Yeah, it's one of those that, you get to some of the older archers that have been around for a while, and a lot of times they have extra equipment. And, me having an archery
Oh yeah.
shop, I have boxes of equipment. I have rests and stuff that are still in the box, like here,
hmm
I got a Phantom drop away, never been installed.
I've got a bunch of those. Those are awesome rests. I've got a bunch of them.
That's what's on my one bow. My hunting bow, I have just a regular two-prong style rest, but that's what's on my other bow, the drop away. And I've got that just happens to be sitting here. It's just I got
Right.
archery equipment in boxes and boxes that one of these days I need to try and
Yep.
sell it or find somebody that can use it. And
hmm
it's not doing me any good sitting here. And I have lots and lots of parts, and having the store, I have lots of cams for some of the older bows, and they're the cams.
Right.
Some had modules you got to replace. Now a lot of the new ones, you just have sometimes you have a draw stop to change and a module to rotate. The older ones you have to actually replace modules, and
hmm
so there's get an older bow and start off there.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with an older bow. I've had some older bows out there that I honestly, that I knew I didn't necessarily take them to a tournament because I had the new model, whatever, but I knew he'd be in the truck with me, and I knew if I was having a bad day, that was a bow that was about to go out on the range with me, whether it was the latest and greatest or not. Just everybody's
Yeah,
got that old faithful somewhere,
yeah, just ones that you're used to. And um, you just got to have a lot of different bows, and that's
hmm
you know there's, if you have one bow, you can have different sights, one set up for hunting, one set up for target. You can I wouldn't go out doing a lot of rest switch, because that's kind of a pain. But switching sights out, that's something that'd be real easy to do. Just pull off one sight, one set for hunting, and your hunting arrows, which may be a different weight, and your target arrows different weight, and you go from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed talking to you. It's been a lot of
Yeah.
fun having you
You.
on here. I'm glad you've been able to come on to the show, and it's had your insights, and it's always a lot of fun, talking to different archers. This is something that is enjoyable, and I like hearing all the different stories. Just something that's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it, and the same way. If you want to talk about bow hunting or archery or whatever, some semblance of archery, I'm always down for it. So
Yeah, And that's why I started up the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. It's a group that you don't have to worry about being sold to. It's all just for content, helping out the archers, and you can upload your videos and we'll critique it. And there's people who've been shooting longer than I have, and like all kinds of experience. We can help you with set up your bows and everything else. Just join that group, and I'll leave a description for that in the link for the description for you to get into the Archer group, and as well as anything else you want to do. You can just get a hold of me and
Okay.
just ask. We'll be glad to help you out whenever we can. So my name is Roy Canterbury. I've been your host today on Arch Talk 101 with Chase Burch, and it's been a lot of fun on this call. Stay tuned for the next one.